I found this awesome book and I decided why not make some bookmarks. So I went through all of my materials and these are some of the ones that I've found. So let's get started. I went down to Joann's and I picked up all of these pieces for less than $10 with a bunch of coupons. It's really easy to do. All you have to do is download the app. Now comes the prep work, and I want to save this piece of cardboard for a later project. Now let's take everything out of the package and get started. I picked this really pretty silver locket and this beautiful lace material that I've used on multiple projects. These fasteners that are usually used for chokers and necklaces work perfect for bookmarks. Now to size out the piece of ribbon to perfectly fit the book. I gave it a little bit of overhang on both sides. Now to match the pieces and make sure they fit. I got this glue gun to make sure that they wouldn't come off. It is a commercial style glue gun. You can also just get your basic style ones too. Now place it in and let the glue dry a little bit. I tried pushing it down with my fingers and it was too hard, so I grabbed my scissors and used them to help apply pressure, and it worked just perfectly. Do the same thing for the other side. And attach your silver piece. Fortunately, this is material, so I can't burn the ends and only put one silver piece, so this one will be double-sided. Now I have this ribbon. I decided to double-side it, but you can burn one side and it'll leave a nice surface without having to add both pieces on. I chose these antique metal pieces for the script ribbon that I really liked. I think this was my favorite. Now you're going to have to measure up the pieces of the antique metal and make sure they fit perfectly. Now I take the lighter and I melt the edges of the ribbon to make sure that they don't fray later on. And we're going to do the same thing with our antiqued metal pieces. We are going to go ahead and glue the end of the ribbon with our hot glue gun and mount the pieces. And just like with the other bookmark, we will be using the scissors to push down the piece of metal and make sure it's fastened properly. Remember, even out your pressure on the piece of metal because you don't want it to push in just the center and then it won't look very nice. Now I'm really excited because we're actually seeing the pieces come together. But we're not quite finished yet. I have so much of this material, why not turn a piece into a bookmark? I like the silver, I think it really matches. And the smaller one actually ends up being a perfect fit on this silver bracket. Now we'll use a marker to mark out how much material we're going to need. And I'll use this piece of cardboard that I had left over from all of my other pieces to draw out the lines. Now to cut the piece of material. And again, we're going to use the glue gun to make sure that it's really fastened to the material. I use this stick skewer to press in the piece of material properly and clean up any excess hot glue. It made it so much easier. Alrighty, now our piece of material is ready. Let's see how it looks. Alright, I'm super excited now just to add the charms and a few other things. Now we will be needing our jump rings and some pliers so we can attach all of our wonderful charms. And now the Paris one is finished, but the back needs something to keep it from over fraying. Let's trim off these pieces and go dig through our sewing box. Before we bring that into play, let's finish getting all these jump rings and charms onto the rest of our bookmarks and see how they look. I'm taking apart the packaging so that way I can keep using it instead of having to buy containers for my jump rings. It makes it easier and cheaper, and I'm kind of living out of a box right now since I'm in the process of buying a home. I literally am staying with friends. Now we're going to need 2 pairs of pliers to apply the jump rings. If you guys have never done that before, let me know in the comments and I will link an extra video on how to do so. Now to add the silver jump rings to our final bookmark. We're going to be finishing up putting on the last of the charms. I really like the lockets for some reason. They seem to add a special touch to these bookmarks. I've never really seen it before, but I thought it was pretty neat. This bookmark seems to be missing something, so I went and dug through a couple of my things, and I found these really pretty flowers that I've used on a couple of projects lately, and I thought it would match perfectly. So I really didn't like how the flower was hanging off of the bookmark with 2 jump rings, so I had to take it apart and add the flower with the Eiffel Tower so they both dangled just right. And of course, silly old me puts it on backwards. Third time's the charm, right? Haha. So if you've never seen Fusion Shape before, I love this stuff. I've used it on many projects. Let me know if you want to see more projects with it. We are going to be using this to place on the back of our bookmark so that way it doesn't fray. Lay the bookmark piece on the Fusion Shape and see how much you need, and then cut the piece out. I'm going to try and make it a little bit smaller than the bookmark so my edges can fray. Now to match it up, and it fits perfectly. Alright, let's move on over to the ironing board and make sure that it's not double-sided fuse, because then you'll end up with it sticking to your iron. Alright, I made a little mistake there. As long as you don't push down too hard, you can lift it up and maneuver it into the right place and then continue ironing. Alright, one last good press for good measure to make sure that it's in place. We ended up having this little extra piece of material come over the edge, but that's okay. Just trim it off, and now your entire bookmark is ready to go. This one is now complete, as is this one. But now we still have this one. What are we going to do with that spot? I came up with a really great idea. I was looking up tassels at Joann's and a couple other craft stores, and they're like $9 for a really nice looking tassel. So I decided, why not make my own? I got some ribbon, and this one I actually got in the clearance section for less than $1, I'm pretty sure. And I just started cutting it into strips. Now lay them all together in a straight row and prep for your next pieces. Eventually I'm bound to run out of this material, but for now I still have some, so let's use this in our awesome tassel. I decided I wanted this word for right around the front of the tassel when it was finished. so I just cut out the strip and set it aside. I had a scrap left over, so I decided to cut little strips off of the scrap and put them in my pile. It got a little trickier as the piece of material got smaller, but I made do because every little scrap counts. There's no sense in wasting it. And now, my favorite string, which I use on almost every project sometimes, I swear. I cut out 7 pieces and laid them out evenly. Now I bunched up all the pieces of string and mixed them in really good. I actually had to lay it down and adjust some of them because I didn't like how some of the same strings were bunching together. I wanted them to all be different and intermixed. Now I'm going to take this stick that I've been using throughout the entire time and just wrap the pieces of string over the center of it and fold it in half. And I'm going to take some more of my favorite string and wrap it around the middle towards the top of the stick and prepare to tie a nice thick knot. I wrapped a string around the top of the tassel and tied it to make it a little bit easier to be able to tie it around the middle and not have to fiddle with the top later and having to put on a mounting point to add the tassel to my bookmark. I secured down the string around the middle and pulled it as tight as I could before tying a knot in the middle. cutting off the strings all the way down to the knot. Now we're going to take this piece of material we cut out in the beginning and we're going to glue it over the strings we just tied down and trimmed. Now it ended up being a little bit larger, so we're going to have to trim down the sides of the material. I trimmed it down just so I could see the words because the words ended up being just long enough. Take the hot glue gun, put some glue on your string, and place it over the string. Now to wrap the glue on and around to the back so we can mount the rest of the material. Now with this last piece, I folded it under after I trimmed it down, and then I glued inside of the folded down piece so that way it would stay that way, and then folded it back down over itself. It sounds kind of confusing, but it really isn't. Just fold back the material and glue it in so you have a nice soft edge instead of a hard rough edge. Now it's all pretty and ready to go, but I felt it was still missing something, so I took one last piece of string and cut it to be the same length as the tassel. I glued it in back to mount it and make sure it wouldn't go anywhere. Just a small dab will do. Wrapped it around front and tied it. I also slid on the little rose before I tied it. That way it could move around freely on the front of the string. And I tied a little bow to go just over the top of the rose. At least I think I tied a bow. Maybe I didn't, and then I just cut the strings to match the rest of the tassel. Now to add it to the top of our bookmark, you just need a jump ring. Just put it around the string, nothing fancy, and attach it to the top of your bookmark, and it is ready to go. I think this one was actually my favorite. And now look at our beautiful bookmarks. They are so pretty and beautiful. If you guys make your own bookmarks, please let me see them. Post your pictures in the comments. Send them to me on my social media. I'll be adding Snapchat and Instagram. I still have yet to set up a Facebook, but it's in the works and I will definitely let you guys know when they are ready. Please like this video if you love these bookmarks. I loved how they came out. They were a lot more beautiful than I expected them to be, and I think this is one of my favorite projects I've done so far. Thank you and have a marvelous day.